What were you doing in Egypt when you went with the president?
I was accompanying the business delegation in order to investigate business opportunities for South African businesses in Egypt.
I asked the question because the perception has always been that the North African countries truly, politically and bilaterally as well as economically, do not look on themselves as part of Africa. Did you find the reception better than expected?
If you consider that Egypt and South Africa are the biggest, largest economies in the continent, we are ranked higher than Egypt.
Yes.
It becomes important for the two big economies positioned in the north and south to forge cooperation for the development of the African continent.
Sure.
Therefore, this state visit was one of those processes that's making sure that we make those ties very strong.
What was the welcome like?
The business delegation in Egypt was very eager. We had a room of about 800 business people on the different sectors, starting from the agriculture to infrastructure to ICT. And we had presentations about the opportunities that happened, that are available in Egypt. And we also had to go and do on-site visits to see exactly what are the nature of those opportunities, or what can we see that we can come back with.
Yeah. What was your sense after the visit of the probability of those opportunities becoming real deals on the ground?
Given the fact that this visit follows on the visit that was done earlier on by President Mubarak when he visited South Africa. And if you look at what the statistics tells us, last year the export to Egypt by South African was about 1.1 billion rands.
Okay.
Meanwhile, export by Egypt of South African products was about 230. Now, given the sizes of the economies, you can see that these numbers are very, very small. So if you then consider what it then provides us with an opportunity to look at growing those numbers and making sure that we take advantage of the positions of both these big African economies.
Yeah. Now, as you say, the business delegation that went that accompanied the president was over 200 companies, and they were in all the different sectors. So your FNBs, your banks, your ICT companies, Petro SA, as well as Seacom, of course, who have got that cable around the coast of Africa.
Yeah.
In terms of the interest of the business people that went to Egypt, which sector would you say is likely to be the greatest opportunity to grow trade ties between the two countries?
I believe that for strategic reason, the energy sector, as you know, Petro SA is already there. And then the agricultural sector, particularly agro-processing, because as you know that Egypt is very great there. And there's an opportunity for both countries for technology transfer, because we also are experts in our own right.
Yeah.
And then therefore there's opportunities of forging partnerships as we enter the rest of the continent. And then obviously the backbone to development is infrastructure development.
Sure.
Partnering on infrastructure development become key. I mean, if you consider your earlier question around why the trade and investment flows hasn't been that much.
Yeah.
You can even imagine the distance between the two, and the lack of infrastructure development makes it much more difficult, to even trade between the two countries.
Yeah.
So development of the infrastructure will go a long way, and those were some of the industries that really showed interest and have a greater opportunity.
Yeah, I would imagine Egypt has a lot to teach countries in Southern Africa, for instance, about how to use irrigation and that kind of thing because of their dependence on the Nile. But perhaps we'll start to see the fruits of that. A question I had around the visit is, you were part of the delegation that went to China with President Jacob Zuma. Yes. Are these visits worth the time and effort that business people like yourselves take to making them?
There is very strong recognition that partnering between government and business as you look for investment opportunities is very critical. And these are the reasons. Firstly, those bilateral trade agreements or bilateral investment treaties that get signed, they remove the impediments for business, for doing business. And then secondly, if you are in the trade mission, there's a real opportunity of having a business-to-business meeting, because there's nothing that goes beyond making contact with your prospective business. And also, the business people assembled in the destination countries, they create an environment, or potential for future partners. Then there's always, before that, the media plays a very good role in marketing South Africa. So by the time you arrive, there's a much more greater awareness about the country. Everybody is anticipating the visit. So based on that, there's a very good reason and benefits of having such dual trips.
What about the counter-argument, though, that the state's role in fostering business development is receding in the new global economy because, of the emergence of super-fast telecommunications and also the reduced role that we have seen state enterprises playing in the national economies?
That's a very critical point, in the sense that governments don't trade, they don't invest. They create an enabling environment. At the end of the day, it is businesses that will do the trade. And it becomes important that, therefore, we take the lead in the trading, because that is whose role trade and investment is. It's not government. But government is there to create the enabling environment, remove the impediments to trading in order to create a conducive climate for investments.
Indeed. Futhi Mthoba, President, Business Unit South Africa, thanks very much indeed for coming through today and discussing that. We shall hold you to account. I'm hoping one of these days we'll call you in again and we ask about the benefits that we have seen flowing out of these visits. So for the future, when they do come along, we give them the attention that they deserve.
Thank you very much. What we have done in Busa is we've created in most of these visits CEO business forum, which will be monitoring, following the process, because we also knew in this whole area of the foreign economic policy